Hey, welcome back. It's Don again, and I'm out here carrying on with the Jeep project. So, if you were with me last time around, right over here to my right, which I'm not sure you can see it or not, but we've still got that 304 on the engine stand, but now that thing has been stripped down to the block and the pistons and the heads, and that's it. So, it's basically a short block now, ready to be traded in on a new short block or, be used as the core. So, it's time to get a little shopping done on that stuff, and we've got some other things going on to keep this thing moving along. So let's jump into it, and I'll bring you up to speed on what we're going to do this week. All right, well, it's a little, I got a little sad news to start this episode off with, and the only reason I'm telling you this is because I had the dog in so many of my videos, or a lot of the videos here, and I kind of poked a little fun at her. We did have to put my old three-legged dog down the other day. I don't know if you want the story, but I had to take her in for some surgery, and she's pretty old. She's over 12 years old, and she just didn't make it back from surgery. So, that's always a tough decision, but we did have to do that. So, and again, the only reason I'm sharing this with you is because I've had her in the videos, and I didn't want you to just wonder why I stopped having her in the videos. So, Bonnie, rest in peace, has gone to heaven, dog heaven, and we think she's probably got all four legs up there. So, that happened, and we'll move on from that. So I'm going to come back and talk about the Jeep for a minute, and we'll talk about the stuff that I got on the plans, and I'll bring you up to speed, and then we'll see if we can get these mitts dirty. Well, okay, so what is kind of surprised me about ripping this engine apart was how quickly it went. I kind of, in my mind, had that, I just thought it was going to take me longer to be at the point where I'm ready to start pulling the engine back together. So I haven't done anything about ordering a short block yet, and I'm sure that just like every other piece of equipment I've ordered for this thing, there's going to be a couple of weeks or maybe longer to get that here. So I got to get on that. That probably better be tomorrow's job on the internet, is searching around and doing a little research and pricing out short blocks and seeing what lead time we're talking about and all that kind of thing. I've looked, but I haven't really looked seriously enough to order anything or talk to anybody about what it's going to take to get one in. But have no fear, I'm not going to run out of stuff to do. I've got, obviously, brakes. There's no brakes on this thing. I got all that to reassemble. The rear pads are kind of mocking me right down there. I can see them while I'm talking to you, and no one snuck in and put those on for me, so I'm going to have to do it myself. I have a little decision that I need to make about the fuel delivery system, and let me just briefly explain. If you recall, when I was disassembling the wiring harness and so forth, in fact, maybe I can put that up here, that episode, there was the electric fuel pump that came with that Holley projection throttle body fuel injection system that was kind of a high, I don't know if it's so much high pressure, it's high volume or whatever it was, but anyway, it's an electric fuel pump. And I do believe that there was some guidance in the instructions to kind of mount it closer to the tank than to the engine, so that it didn't have to pull the fuel very far, and it was up to the job of kind of pressuring a long fuel line up to that throttle body injection system, but I don't think they necessarily wanted it at the front end of the Jeep. So if I choose to just keep the Holley system and put it back on the new short block, then probably right back here in the back somewhere, one of those new hoses that I ran from that new tub or that new tank to that new fuel line, may have to split that and insert that fuel pump in there somewhere and get the wiring to it. So I'm probably at the point where I'm gonna have to get back out there in the Jeep graveyard and retrieve my wiring harness and get at least some of that back in here. Like, there was that little kind of threaded post that is the fuel sending unit on the fuel tank. There's a little cap kind of connector that slips onto there, and then once all that stuff's done, then I can get my my 2x4 blocks out from beneath the body in the tub here and drop this thing back down on the frame, and probably really at that point get it, you know, kind of lined up and bolted up for good, because I shouldn't have to lift it up again. So there's that to do, and that decision to make about that fuel injection system. Let me tell you about that fuel injection system. I talked about it a little bit the other day. I don't hate that thing. And it did keep this thing running, you know, sometimes on the inclines where, you know, I thought I was going over backwards. The engine was running the whole time. So it works. It's extremely touchy, like it always felt like to me it needs a little longer lever on the fuel, on the throttle position sensor, so that, you know, it takes a little bit longer gas pedal throw to give it the power. Because I mean, you had to literally drive this thing like you're on eggshells. Just a little tiny bit of throttle went a long way. So especially when, I think I mentioned, when I had the Detroit locker in the back, you know, I mean, the power take up with that throttle body injection system was just immediate. And because the gas pedal didn't have to go very far, you really had to mind your P's and Q's when you touch the throttle, because if you're on the trail, you could be jumping over stuff, or, you know, I mean, bouncing up over rock when you didn't want to be. If you're on the street, you could be doing your uncontrolled lane changes over into the right lane because of the torque steer. So there's all that rolling around in the back of my head, especially where my ultimate plan is that this Jeep is not going to be one I'm going to keep for the rest of my life. So it may be okay to just put a regular carburetor back on it and assume that the next guy isn't going to be standing it up on its tail end here, climbing stuff all over the place, and can deal with, you know, the occasional flooding, because, you know, carburetors are fine, whatever. So there's that to consider. So brakes, some electrical stuff, fuel pump, motor, and then really I could get to the point where if I run out of anything else to do, which I know I'm not going to, but if I do run out of anything else to do, I can start to get onto some of this tub bodywork prep stuff, like, you know, a little filling in of those little spot weld holes and dents and all that kind of stuff. So I keep promising you, but I will do a full walk around of this tub, and we'll look at every little blemish and the things that I think look kind of shoddy about the construction, but aren't, you know, showstoppers. And I have not even unboxed the new windshield frame. I haven't set the fenders on at all. I could probably stand to do that and kind of mock the whole thing up before I get everything bolted down and just see how the overall assembly looks, because so much of this stuff is new. So I can do that as well. So I did, as I was draining the oil, I've kind of started collecting all my waste oil in a bucket, and I do want to drain the differentials and put fresh gear lube in those. And I've got that differential breather kit from ARB that I can get kind of plumbed up while I've got the room to work out of the tub. And so there's that stuff that can go back in. And yeah, plenty of work to do. We're not going to run out. And here's what my thoughts are on, I know you guys are watching the Jeep stuff here, and maybe you came here and you found the channel completely because of the Jeep work, and that's great, and I don't want to alienate you at all, but I still do have that sailboat out there that I've got to get finished up and something done with that. Sell it, put it in the water somewhere or whatever. But since I kind of stepped up the frequency of these videos to twice a week, what I think I might do is I might split that up and maybe do still like a Saturday drop of the Jeep stuff. Maybe the episodes will be a little bit longer, or I'll have to shut up and just show you more and talk less or whatever. But then in the middle of the week, maybe I'll work on the sailboat a little bit, because I do really need to get that finished, because that little old lady is going to have my butt if I don't. So I think what I'll do maybe even tomorrow afternoon when I get home from work is set the camera up out there, and I really have not touched it since I tarped it up for the winter. So it's now June, and it's time to get that tarp off there and see how my deck job held up over the winter and make sure all that stuff that I did last year has cured well and survived the winter. And then I can start to finish up the last little odds and ends. There's not much to do left on that, you know, so just a little bit of stuff and I can get that finished up and be done with it. So there you have it. A lot of talking, not much working yet, but I promise I will get to work here and we'll get something done. All right, did I mention electrical stuff? So I think it's time to, this is the wiring harness out of that Jeep. I think that might be out of the CJ-5, but wouldn't swear to it yet. I got a little sorting out to do. So I'm going to sort this out. I believe down in here somewhere is, yeah, that fuel pump I've been discussing is right there. Fuel filter had a little bit of gas left in it, so I got a little gas on me and I had to go change my clothes because I stunk like gas. But I'm going to sort this out a little bit and find that fuel tank sending unit connector and get that strung and figure out what I'm going to do about that gas line and so forth and see about cleaning this mess up a little bit. So obviously some of it could use some new wire loom and whatnot. So yeah, it looks bad now, but it will look better before I'm done, I guarantee you. So let's do that for a bit. I'm not going to make you watch me do it. I'll just come back when I'm done and show you what I came up with. As with most messes, the more scattered out you get them, the less intimidating they look. So I've just been scattering this stuff all over. Actually, it's not that bad. So these are those KC lights that are on the front. May or may not reinstall those, hard to say. Haven't decided yet, we'll see. Don't have to decide that for a long time to come. Here's our fuel system, fuel pump system. So there's the fuel pump, about 12 miles of cable that goes with it here, lot of cable. And that big filter that still had gas in it that now has me all stinky like gas. And a little pre-filter that we had back here by the pump, or by the tank end. There was some extra wires up there and a connector block that I took off that I think were, that relay is there. There was the relay for the front lights and for that fan that I had, the electric fan on the radiator that I needed, because as we found out, half my block was all clogged up. That section of cable right there, I believe, is what's going to go to back up to the projection system based on the connectors of it. I've got starter solenoid, voltage regulator, all the rest of the painless wiring harness that has labels on it, you know, of what it is, just extra cables that are not hooked up yet. Coming back up here to the back of, this is the part that connects to the firewall. It goes through the firewall to the fuse panel inside of the Jeep, and a couple more cables runs off to the other side of the thing. So it doesn't look too bad, but I did not find my connector for the fuel tank. So what I'm looking for is something similar to this little dude, but this one happens to go to the hot water, or to the temperature sending unit. So again, you can see this painless wiring stuff's got, everything's pretty well labeled. This was the wire to the temp sender that I have here just in my hand. So, you know, it's not tough to follow these things if you can read. Backup switch, ground, I don't know. It's just not that tough. So a couple of wires that we don't need, air conditioning compressor, we don't have air conditioning. So yeah, doesn't look too bad, but I did not find the wire I was looking for to get my sending unit on the gas tank hooked up there. So thwarted one more time. Dang it. And I've looked out there. I'll give you just a little peek out the door. You can kind of see just what a chaotic mess it is out there. I won't show you too close or you'll lose all respect for me. So anyway, the fuel system, I am going to deal with that, but for now I might just set it back outside because it's stinking up the garage. And the rest of this can start to go back in place as we start to get everything lined up, but I don't need it right this minute since I didn't find the one I was looking for. So I might just go see if I can't find me one of those sending wires to get that under there so I can get the tub down and just splice it in there. It's just got to be a little wire to tell us if we got any gas in the tank. So there's our wiring mess thing, whatever you want to call it. There it is. Well, look at this. I found it. You know what I think happened? I think I heard one of you out there on the other side of the screen there going, "Hey Don, have you looked on the old gas tank? Maybe you left it on there." So yeah, I looked on the old gas tank. Sure enough, there's my wire. So it's kind of, well, it's dirty, but this part is. But this is kind of a braided fabric kind of sleeve around it just to protect it so it doesn't rub up against the frame. It looks all right. It's just a little snagged at the end here, so I'm going to chip that off. And then we just have a spade connector here, and off we go. So success, and thanks for jogging my memory, whoever you were that was saying, "Hey, you idiot, have you looked on the old gas tank? Because you probably just unclipped it and pulled the tank out." In fact, should we go back and watch me take that tank out and see if we still see the wire on there? I don't know, we'll see. But anyway, got it, can get it on there, and now we can get my tub dropped down. I think I got everything. So this will be the last chunk, and I'm gonna get my 2x4s out from under this big tall lumbering thing and get it back down where it's supposed to be and start doing my lineup thing and bolting it down, because I think it's time to attach this thing to the frame for real. So I might let you watch me do that. How's that sound? Okay, well, the battery chopped off rather unexpectedly there. It just died. It looked like it was fully charged when I turned it on, but something happened. Anyway, I was bolting the tub back down, and I was just snugging up the bolts a little bit with my 3/8 inch short drive here, like a 6-inch ratchet. Not putting any pressure on there, just kind of trying to bring all of the mounting points down to the body washers, just to kind of get the tub sitting here against the washers, just in case before when I kind of showed you I had a weird gap. I just wanted to see if I could kind of get everything to settle out and be fine. And I was up in the front driver's side on the very front point up there, and I'm just merrily going about my business. I'm drawing down about 1/4 inch of gap between the body and the body washer, and it pulled down, and then one more little half a turn and went boink, like I'd stripped the nut out in there. And I already have another one on that side that I felt like was stripped right from the get-go. So maybe I've discovered the real Achilles heel of these Philippine tubs, is they're not using good nuts in those caged in places where you can't really get to the thing and it's enclosed so it can't turn. So I'm gonna slide this thing out and figure out what to do about that while I'm fixing stripped out bolt holes and so forth. Remember, or I don't know if you remember or not, but up there on that cross member for the transfer case, the front bolt on the driver's side up there was stripped. That was the one that fell out on the ground. So I'm going to find the next size bolt for that, run a drill up through there with the proper size to tap that again, and then dig out my tap and die set and tap that hole with a little bigger bolt. So I'll have one odd size bolt, but at least I got to have it bolted up there nice and tight. And then I'll get on these and figure out what I'm going to do about this. If I have two of them actually stripped now, that's really a pain, because like I said, both of them, you know, I don't even know if it's a nut or if it's a square nut, but it's kind of inside a closed in part of the rail under the tub. So you're really only getting your bolt to go up through there, and that nut is just being held in place by that little, you know, kind of channel that it's sitting in. So if it is indeed just was crappily threaded and it wasn't really a nut in there, and it's just maybe a piece of steel that's threaded, you know, tapped out, that's going to be a pain. But maybe I can do the same thing, run another drill up, drill a little bigger, put a little bigger tap up through it and get it back to ready to go. Or what might also be the problem, and I'm not really sure about this, and I don't think this could really be what's going on, but I mentioned, and I think I showed you how this is all got that bullet liner underbody coating on the whole underside of the body. Well, it's sprayed everywhere, so it's sprayed all over those bolts, and even as I'm threading them in there by hand, they're tough to get in because you can kind of tell you're having to cut through that bullet liner that's sprayed under there. So I suppose there's a chance that the bullet liner has actually made that hole smaller than the real size it is, and when I'm screwing my bolt up through that threaded hole, I'm not putting the right size bolt up through there. Maybe I need to be one size bigger. So I'll probably try one size bigger first in those two that are giving me trouble now, and see if perhaps that's it. I think that's a pretty far-fetched idea. I can't imagine that there's that much of that liner sprayed in there to actually make that work. But that's one theory, is that, you know, I've just been threading my bolt into the bullet liner that's inside of that hole, and it's enough to kind of hold the thing, and as I tighten them all down, they'll all do the same thing if that's the case. So there's a little bit of a mystery there. I'll figure it out. I'm a technician. So I got to leave this here for now, and when I come back, next episode, I think, like I said when I was talking the other day, I'm going to start splitting stuff up. I think I may get out there and open up that sailboat, but it got hot here all of a sudden. It's been in the 90s, and it's barely into June here, so we went right from, well, it's just hot, and I don't know if I really want to be out there in that hot sun working on sailboat, so I might just stay in here. We'll see. I don't know. You'll be as surprised as me to find out what's in the next episode, won't you? But you won't see it if you don't watch it, so come on along. Let's keep this journey going. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time around.